at least to my knowledge, we have, I'll address that. Nine members, 5 people here present and accounted for is a quorum. So, but what you don't know whether the one applicant was appointed last night. I could not find the last night's appointments. I think they weren't posted yet. Yeah, so that's, there is Mr. Smith, our applicant. Hello, Jim. All right, let's
Evening.
see. Good evening. Let's see, public comment, Verizon, Louise, we had just back and forth. The one thing on the franchise renewal, I don't know, you want to give the update there, Louise?
Of course. I will be, I'm working, getting internal approvals here, but I'm sure it's not going to be an issue, that we're going to be concurring with a board resolution to extend the agreement again until June 13th, 2024, giving us another year to negotiate. So I just have to go through internal channels here to get that done, but it's not going to be an issue. So
okay,
2024.
And Comcast is, I think, are they
December
6 months?
23.
So they're 6 months behind Verizon's current expiration, but all right, very good. We will stay tuned on that, I guess.
We all will.
All right, well, thank you, Louise. Appreciate
You're most
it.
welcome.
All right, let's see. That brings us to the chair's update. Minutes. Do we have any volunteers for tonight's to take tonight's minutes? I think we're still missing January and February. Or am I?
Yes, I'm behind.
Right.
I can keep trying to take notes.
Notes,
If anyone
okay.
else wants to
Take a stab.
take a stab, I appreciate it.
In theory, we can.
I can do it, but, so
Oh.
the transcript is not available?
It is.
It is.
Oh, it is.
Okay, so I would just need to supplement the transcript.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, I'll do it. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, good. All right. Thanks.
Tell me where I can access.
I can forward it.
Okay,
After.
thank you.
All right. Yeah, so, and I guess, I think you had some notes for, I think, January and February. We'll
Yeah.
try to work through, so maybe we can divvy it up. In theory, if we all take a shot, we can, if we get back to full strength, we'll be pretty close to do 1 month per week, do it once a year. So we'll see how that works. Let's see. Vacancies. We still, to our knowledge, have 4 vacancies. We have 1 applicant, Jim Smith, who is joining us as a guest tonight. Jim spoke with Libby Garvey on Monday, and
Correct.
it's possible that he was appointed at the recess meeting last night, but we've not gotten word back yet on that, and has not been posted yet that I could find. So
I'm waiting with bated breath.
okay, so we hope next time you'll be an official member there. That'll put pressure on us. We'll need an additional person to get a quorum there, but that's good. No, as soon as we hear any word, we'll go. That if Jim is appointed, it means we'll still have 3 vacancies. So again, if you know of anybody who might be interested or be interested, have them apply through the portal, which I think there's actually a link on our homepage. So, so it'd be good to fill those vacancies. On March 14th, the budget work session on DTS, John presented, and I think we actually got some feedback, or at least some intel that was useful, that privacy is something that's been a long time issue of ours, maybe being worked on countywide. I mean, obviously they pulled together the various policies from across, but maybe there'll be some work on that. It sounded like that the manager may, push forward to try to have an overarching county-wide policy, right?
No comments yet.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But
If you watched the session, there were some questions from board members to the manager regarding privacy. So at least it sparked some conversation.
and it seemed that there was some interest on the manager's part to do something with that. And also, I think during the presentation, there was also mentioned that the broadband study should be done by summer, I think there was some comment in that session there. Not by, not, yes, I know it's not you.
There are others here who may be more authoritative than I.
Right.
But that was my understanding.
Okay. And again, I think as we get a little closer, we'll probably do hello, wow. Hello, welcome.
Thank you very much.
I think we'll probably at a future meeting perhaps address the municipal broadband question again, but probably not for at least a couple months, I think.
Yeah.
And we've gotten some suggestions of who might be good, good for to present to us. So we'll stay tuned on that. Our April meeting.
When you do that, I would like to make sure that it's a balanced presentation.
Yes. And we have to be careful how we describe balancing.
We're looking at bringing in various different perspectives.
Yes.
So we can hear various different perspectives.
You haven't necessarily.
No. But we will when we at a future date, when we're a little closer to getting us that study out. Our April meeting actually we're gonna have a presentation from, I guess it's PM Consulting Group.
They rebrand.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's I forget. Okay, anyhow, but well, why don't you describe?
A firm that's been doing municipal cybersecurity assessments overseas and kind of bringing back some of their lessons learned and best practices. Obviously, we struggle to have conversations about cybersecurity at the municipal level with the DTS staff for obvious reasons of not wanting to discuss sensitive information in a public setting. So we thought an outside group that is doing assessments at this type of work at the municipal level might be good people to hear from to kind of help us formulate any additional recommendations or thoughts we might want to pass along from a policy perspective.
Do you think maybe this is related, but it's definitely, tangential, I guess?
Yeah.
Do you think maybe NIST or someone from NIST might be helpful on that and the privacy standards?
Potentially.
Because I'm thinking, since we use those standards in doing our privacy assessment, and obviously cybersecurity is one of the issues that's important when you're looking at privacy and what's potentially obtainable from other parties.
Yeah.
And I would think there might be actually a balanced expert there that we might be able to get to come and talk to us.
Yeah, if you've got some contacts possible.
I do, but I'm not.
Okay.
If you have ideas of specifics, I'd love.
I know the person I know, I think, is in a senior position now, but I can ask them.
Yeah, I think
who they would recommend.
What is the name of the organization?
NIST,
National
Institute of Standards and Technology.
Technology.
They are the premier gold standard for this type of thing. The NIST risk management framework is the risk management framework gold standard. The privacy framework is the gold standard. Jackie, my only thought about NIST is not that they wouldn't have the experts, but that they're, but I think what would be valuable for us is people who are practicing at the municipal level.
Yeah.
And NIST is really looking at the entire kind of spectrum. So
yeah, they do identify models nationally, and I suppose if we're doing virtual presentations, they might have someone that they think is the national model we could talk to or something like that.
Yeah, so happy to have a conversation about
what time frame would you be looking at? April?
I mean, whenever. I think we have the agenda. We have folks set up for April, right?
Right.
So I think we're looking for any speakers or experts that we want to bring in on any really of our charter topics.
Okay.
I think we're just looking to get folks lined up.
I'll find out who's there now. And
yeah.
they might recommend.
All right, good. Yeah, yeah, you can let us know on that. And I think that brings us to the DTS digital strategy. And I think, is Holly going to present on that? Is that?
Yes,
Yes.
well,
I
I'm
think,
gonna run the
is it going to be a
slides.
combination of Nora and?
It's gonna be a team effort.
Okay, very good. All right.
I'm gonna do the slides.
All right.
Holly's gonna join us with narration, and Lauren's gonna kick us off.
Okay.
So let me find
All right.
the right window here.
Okay, so I don't have video right now, but I can do voice. Apologies in advance.
Okay.
I am gonna have to minimize video anyways, so people can see all the slides. So
Okay, sounds good.
for both you and Holly, the way this is set up tonight, I see PowerPoint and just PowerPoint. So I will, as you tell me to, I will advance the slides and we'll just kick it off from there. Is the volume okay for Norm, or do we need more?
Yes.
Okay, let me know if we need more.
Okay, so I'll just start with some opening comments and then I'll turn it over to Holly. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You know, since coming on board with Arlington County, initially, as you all know, as the deputy director and now the director for DTS, I've engaged various department and public stakeholders, really to see what's working well and where there's opportunity for more impactful outcomes. So as a result of, we have this new strategy, 3 pages, which was created and published in alignment for realignment of the department, really to focus on providing excellent core services, the basic stuff that we provide day to day for the enterprise that are secure, stable, and sustainable. So this strategy also can serve as a framework for a more comprehensive plan in the future. I'm not saying anything on timelines there, guys, but I know that's been something discussed in this forum several times for a comprehensive strategy regarding technology. So this can be a framework for that, but I cannot make any comment as to when that would occur. And that are my opening comments. So I turn it over to Holly and go to the next slide, please.
Great. Good evening, everybody. I turned off my camera. I said a quick hello. I don't know if anybody saw me or not, but I'm Holly Hartel. For those of you who do not know me, I think most of you looking at the pictures, I think do. There might be a handful who do not. I might, just so you're aware, my role is Assistant CIO for Strategic Initiatives, which means I work for Noran, focusing on the things that are most important to him. One of these things, as he was saying, is the revisiting and updating of our strategy. Noran had talked about how he came in and, took a litmus test of where things were and what people wanted to see from the Department of Technology Services, internally within the department, as well as internally within the county. We also worked throughout the process of revising the strategy with the division heads and their teams to make sure that we were incorporating the efforts and views of their individual divisions. So just a real quick in framing, a strategy, DTS has a mission, right? We are going to be providing excellent service, and we are going to make sure that we are looking at new technology and how that new technology can achieve better business outcomes. Well, we have a mission, but what is it that we're trying to achieve in this time frame that we defined the strategy, the 2023 through 2025? Well, we want to make sure we're leveraging our passion for technology. If you listen or have any conversations with individual staff, we are a group who are very well versed in what's happening in the current technology world and what's planning on happening in future technology, and very interested in taking that expertise and building it into what we're doing within the department. You also see the innovation word, you'll see it frequently, but making sure we're taking those things and we're applying it both equitably and sustainably for people to experience. And then also finally is thinking about this as Noran had said, is a shared journey. How are we making sure that what we're doing is working with the lives of internal staff, but also, and probably most importantly, affecting the businesses and the members of residents in the community? All of that to say, our single one line is to support and sustain a trusted technology foundation, welcoming an innovative, customer-centric era. Those themes of technology foundation, innovation, and customer-centric, you'll see throughout the entire presentation. If you want to go to the next slide. Thanks. So one of the things that's important for us that we had discussed is a set of principles. And so principles are more of the, the operating rules. If we're making a decision or if we're working through different aspects of new projects or challenges we're having in the strategy, what are the rules that govern us and what are the most important? Obviously, cybersecurity and thinking of, right, is this a cybersecurity best practice? Once again, you'll see cybersecurity as a theme throughout. Privacy by design. I heard the discussion of privacy at the earlier, before I started this presentation, trying to build in, are we asking privacy questions from the very beginning of any effort that we're working on and trying to get the county to think through those things more. Prioritize digital innovation. So are we looking at it from a way that's beneficial and new? And what does that mean? Understanding sustainability impact for the projects. And there are two definitions of sustainability, right? There is the sustainability from do we have the funds and resources to support something? But then also, and this is a newer area for us, but what's the impact? What's the environmental impact? And are we thinking about it? Maybe that doesn't seem like there is, but are we at least asking the questions? Pursuing equity. This is both racial equity as well as broader equity for the county and our activities. Communication of departmental priorities. So one of the things you'll see at the end of this strategy, and something that we're trying to do, is making sure that we are using this strategy as a living and breathing document of how we're talking about the work that we're doing and putting it in a place that it's more in the forefront of the activities that we're doing within the county. And then last is be agile to help customers embrace change and meet the business needs. Two key words in there are agile and customers. You'll see later the discussion of the agile methodology, but it also means that are we being flexible and are we understanding what the impact is for the customer? And the second word I just said is important, you'll see, is customers. How are we thinking about that customer? So that's kind of our rules of how we're operating, the areas we kind of want to check boxes. If you want to go to the next slide for me, Richard. So there are 5 strategic goals. And as Norrin had mentioned earlier, some of these things are not necessarily new. It was just a refresh and reframing and kind of trying to bring more specifically, what is it in these areas that we're looking at? So cybersecurity, data privacy, and resiliency, so themes that you have heard that are not new. Our role is to make sure that we're protecting the county's infrastructure in the work that we're doing. Our role is to make sure that we're preserving the county records. Our role is to make sure that, we have access to the systems and that there are no breaches that impact our work and the activities and that the citizens need. All of those things are built on a cybersecurity and privacy foundation as well as resiliency. The county-wide culture of innovation. One of the things that I'd mentioned earlier, is thinking about the customer experiences and business process, but making sure that we're doing that using a methodology and trying to expand the agile methodology. So agile is a very specific methodology to how we can implement, which if you're familiar with it, it's not as structured as waterfall, but it doesn't mean you're not thinking about what is the end goal of how we're trying to get to somewhere, and working through in quick discussions and quick 3-week sprints to make sure you're making progress. So let's identify what our end goal is, and then let's work through those 3-week sprints and make sure that we're moving towards that end goal. And then capitalize on cloud technology. We spent a lot of time in the last couple of years focusing, and I think now we're very poised as we're starting to move some of our applications to the cloud, but also being aware in a deeper level of what is it that, as new applications come online, are the questions that we need to ask to make sure that the cloud technology is serving our needs the best for the county. Transparency and accountability, once again, not a new theme, but are we making sure that we are leveraging both the internal partnerships as well as the external partnerships and communicating and being on the same page of what it is we're trying to achieve and what we're trying to do. Part of that accountability is enabling analytics and data sharing. So making sure both internally that we have the resources and the commitment to be able to get access to information, and then making sure that we are sharing it. Sometimes it's a little bit harder than what you might think it is, but we know that we are trying to work in that direction. And then finally, facilitating an enhanced customer-centric support. So making sure that if we're thinking about our business outcomes, is this something that's really driven by the customer? Are we clear? Are they clear? Let's make sure that that's the forefront of all of our decision making. If you want to go to the next slide for me, Richard. Safe and secure community. Now, this is related to public safety specifically. So thinking about what are the technology capabilities that exist or are new that we should be aware of that could augment situational awareness. And then when we think about the communication capabilities, it kind of fits in with that situational awareness. So we've been working very closely with public safety to understand their needs and to think about what is it that's coming, because there's a lot that's coming up and that will best suit and is something that we are putting a foundation in to be able to be used in the third bullet region wide. So how are we thinking about what we're doing that affects us, but also from the region, the national capital region, because there is a lot of activity that happens that there is mutual aid that's required. And so having the same consistent communication channels and communication pathways and things defined is better for everybody. And then our final one is economic and environmental sustainability. So from the sustainability of our existing resources, making sure that we're staying current, both from that affects us from a resource, from a features perspective, and from a security perspective. Also making sure that we're aligning with the community energy plan. As I had mentioned earlier, are we thinking about, if we're talking about servers and data centers or any type of activity, what is the impact from an environmental perspective? And then finally, when we're thinking about sustainability and the work that we're doing, what is our impact and what are we doing to assist with economic development and increasing occupancy? So those are our 5 goals. Richard, if you'll go to the next slide. I think one of the things, and I've talked about this kind of through the presentation, but we have what we're calling a tactical plan. So that tactical plan, starting from the bottom going up, is initiatives that align to our strategy. What we've been working very closely with each one of the division heads and their teams is to select metrics that align with the tactical plan that inform and keep us aware of, are we on the right path of achieving our digital goals, our strategy goals? Are we making progress? Are we able to show that progress? Now, those things are internal documents for us to make sure that we're moving forward, but they've been very helpful, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, for us to make sure that we're keeping the strategy not as just a document that's on the shelf, but something that's built into how we're moving and where our resources are dedicated and what we're doing. And then the final thing, which is the top, I could have started with that, is that making sure those things are impacting successfully the business outcomes, both internally within the county, as well as for residents and businesses. And our final thing is, to think about this from a communication and a collaboration. All of the work that we're doing right now is to organize ourselves internally to make sure that we are all aware and have at the ready where we stand on our strategy, and that we're using these opportunities to communicate. And then that helps us kind of in the catch-22 circle, be able to collaborate better so people understand where we are and where we're headed. And that is my last slide.
Hey, thanks, Holly. So any questions?
Jackie? Go ahead.
I have quite a few questions. I'm actually not sure where to begin. I feel like this is a very good overview of how and process, but it really doesn't give me much of a sense of what you're doing. I mean, you're doing things that fit into this context. I get that. And you're doing them in ways that fit into these aspirations. I get that. But the what is compatible with what you have here is missing. It doesn't tell us what you're actually doing to accomplish these.
So Jackie, that's intentional. So the strategy, if you know, strategy is high level. Strategy is North Star. That's where we want to be. That's the overall 100-foot view, for lack of a better term. The tactical plan metrics, those things that we talked about that are internal documents, that's the how, that's the what. But we're not releasing those to the public because some of the information is potentially sensitive.
Well, I can understand sensitive information, having worked in areas that come under that. But there are also ways, even within strategy and tactics, to say more pragmatically what it is you're trying to accomplish, more specifically what it is you're trying to accomplish. This is, to me, this is all how. And it really doesn't give much sense of any of the what. And to the degree to which the citizens are a customer, I think that's an important piece. What is it that we can expect to see as an outcome of this strategy and this plan? So I don't know, I'm not asking to see the list of your 3-week sprints, although having done a sprint-oriented plan, I understand the kind of thing you would get from that. But just even maybe the categories that you're working on, which would give us an idea. So some of the specifics that we have a lot of public discussion about, you mentioned analytics. And data sharing and customer-centric support. Now, maybe you're talking about your departments, not the citizens, but we've had a lot of discussion about, and I think citizens, let me just say sort of parenthetically, I think citizens misunderstand what the data portal is. I think they think of it as data access as opposed to a portal of databases and data sets. But things like ways of making data that is the basis for decision making available to the public, whether it's developed by contractors or whether it's developed by internally by staff. Ways of making that so that it can be made available, which is what you would expect from a strategy like this, but you can't see that that's one of the things you're doing.
So I disagree, but I respect your opinion on that.
I have to align myself with Jackie. I found this very, very vague and very, very black box. Not only are you not telling us what you're doing, you're not telling us anything about budgets. You're not telling us how much you're spending, how much revenue you expect to derive in achieving your business outcomes. Is that also going to be inside your black box that you're not going to share with the public or by extension with us?
So if there are specific questions that are related to budgeting, we can certainly have those different types of brief, but I'm not putting that within a strategy. I don't agree that that belongs in a strategy.
You don't think that making budget decisions belongs in the strategy?
Also, the budget is very large.
Keep in mind, the budget changes. The strategy, it's a 2 to 3 year plan. It's an overarching vision of what we want to do. I don't think it's realistic to stick numbers in there that are going to potentially change.
And the budget formulation process for the county is very involved, as you are aware of, right? So I think.
Well, I mean, I don't need, down to the penny, but what about like a pie with percentage of effort and expected ROI? What about those kinds of numbers? And yes, those may change from year to year, but if you're going to plan, you need to have that kind of those kinds of metrics. And if we're to have a role in advising you, leaving aside the accountability questions, I don't see what we can do to react to this. These are just.
This could be any municipality.
This could be any organization. I mean, this
Any
is very,
organization.
very general strategy and mission speak.
It's a template. It's a template of buzzwords, frankly.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So
And I
let me
disagree with
go
you.
at it a different way. What is it that you would like from us? What is it that you would like us to do?
So I would like your endorsement to move forward with this strategy.
Well,
You've not given us anything to judge.
So let's go back. So for the budget stuff, for example, those are basically things that get put out within some of the working sessions. There's lots of comprehensive information out there about our budget, how we break it up, how it's pied out, how much is allocated. Those are not in the strategy, but that information is available.
I guess I can give you another.
I would appreciate seeing those numbers, and if they are already public and they're in the budget, which is a Byzantine process and documented, then point me to.
Yeah, and I think we've made the prior recommendation that we don't feel there's enough transparency on the technology spend in Arlington County government. So I don't that's a policy decision about whether or not additional transparency of the formulation of the budget and how it's communicated to the public is going to change. That's kind of a county manager, Department of Management and Finance, county board decision.
Well, or a lot of work by citizens. I mean, it isn't integrated. You could go through line by line and create your own technology budget. And if it wouldn't be perfect, but it would be like, okay, here's what you get from the public documents. So
Right, but you have to go department by department.
you would have to
There's
go
not,
department by department. I've contemplated that. I've had too many other things on my plate, but I've thought about that a couple of times. I'll give you another concrete comment. I did not see the word transparency.
It was up there.
Yeah.
Transparency, well, okay,
Yeah, can you
what does
flip
that
back a
mean?
few slides?
So wherever you have transparency, what are you talking about?
Back one more.
Yeah, I think it was the
Transparency and
third,
accountability.
Transparency
Third
and
strategic.
accountability. So my question is, where is that? And how can you have accountability for something that has no content?
So I think a lot of what you're talking about, Jackie, is a comprehensive plan. That is something that is to be developed. This is the overarching strategy, a comprehensive plan, which this forum has brought up many times. That's something where all that level of detail would be within that comprehensive plan, but it's not going to be within a strategy.
And that's where you're saying there's no timeline, and this is your sort of umbrella, and it might be a framework for what we want at some future time.
Correct. But I know this forum has mentioned a comprehensive plan a few times since I've been attending.
Yes, absolutely. So I guess the only thing I can ask is.
I think that's what you're looking for.
I guess all I can ask is that you give us a very notional timeframe of when you would be able to be moving towards that. I mean, is moving towards the goal?
So I don't have that time frame at this point. It's going to require resources to develop that comprehensive plan.
So just taking.
How about listing it as an objective of this strategy to be able to do that?
So that is an objective of the county, but I am not in a position to tell you what that time frame is at this point.
Well, I'm asking, maybe you could put that objective into your strategic goals. That would be concrete. You could say in your strategic goals, one of your objectives is this strategy will be used as a framework for leading you to develop a comprehensive plan.
As you envision working on cybersecurity, data privacy, and technology resiliency, all of which are major hauls and very complicated, do you have any idea in your strategy that you can share about the percentage of effort? Are there any priorities among those three? Is it going to be 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 over the next 3 years? Is it going to be security first and privacy second. I mean, is there anything you can give us on that sort of sense of priorities among those very important but very complicated goals?
So the tactical plan is still being developed. It's not finalized yet. When we have that finalized, then yes, we will have that ability to speak to that.
And you'll be able to share some top level sense of your priorities when it's done.
Yes,
Okay, that's
yes,
something.
that's correct.
Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Any other questions?
I would just add a slightly different take. You know, I take your points that it's a bit high level and a bit could be applied anywhere, but at the same time, that means that he got the big things right? Like, these are the things that we should be working on from a strategic framework.
Except that it leaves out the comprehensive plan, which I think should go in there.
Understood. But as a product manager, when you put out a product strategy, the, you know, vision, the values, the high level kind of organizing principle behind kind of what the vision of what we're trying to accomplish is really important to be clear and unambiguous. And then when you get into the methods and the measures and the obstacles that you have to overcome, that's not always something that you share as broadly. It doesn't mean that, and it sounds like there's more meat to this behind the scenes that are not going out publicly. And so I don't have as much concern with this as you.
Well, maybe
you're
you should,
expressing.
maybe we need to look at each individual who comes into the job and has a leadership position. But it's hard being a citizen who's lived here for 40 years, who's been active most of that time related to technology, to see that there are some things where we do redo our strategic plans fairly frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't get down to the nitty-gritty very often.
Yeah.
And so it is frustrating because it, you know, you can be of absolutely good intent, but if you're not able to even talk about the nitty gritty, you don't know whether the strategic plan is helpful or not.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that the flaws that we're pointing out about this particular artifact are flaws that pre-existed this artifact and that this strategic plan was never really going to solve, in my view.
That may well be.
Yeah.
And I'm, you know, so it just, unfortunately, I can say, well, yes, all the right words are there. So you know, but it doesn't make a commitment to what we've identified as priorities.
Well, they're in there.
No.
Some of them are in there.
They're not, they might.
Cybersecurity, privacy's in there.
Well,
Right.
But
Resilience.
the words are there,
Yes.
the words are there, but I don't know what the content is.
The one piece that we've talked about is in the past that's not in there, Norrin, is around digital equity. And I was wondering if that is in there somewhere and I missed it, or if
It's not presentation, but equity is discussed in the actual document.
Yeah, there is not digital equity per se, but pursue equity, and it's both
Along
racial
with
and
Equity is
sexual.
there and
Along with
digital is there.
sustainability.
That's one of the
Great.
principles, is the
Yeah.
principle.
great, then I must have missed it. Thank you.
Yeah, that was
Good.
Yeah, and presumably that would include digital equity.
So from my perspective, and you may or may not agree, at a high level, everything that this form is looking for is in there. It just doesn't have the details that you're asking for. And again, that's something that would come out in the comprehensive plan.
Well, I'm going to say it just one more time. The thing that it doesn't have, that at a strategic level, it could have. And you said in your introduction that it could be a framework for developing a comprehensive plan if it would just add that. Say one of their other goals is to have this as a framework for building a comprehensive plan, then I would know that you have some commitment to be moving from this to something broader.
I need to step in as parliamentarian kind of.
Yeah.
Sure, okay.
So in the structure of ITAC, you are here to gather information from us and make recommendations to the board.
That's right.
And asking for specific changes to documents kind of crosses over a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of remind people of what that firewall looks like.
Well, it could be converted to, I would recommend to
Sure.
the group that we recommend to the board, that they tell you. that it should
Absolutely.
include the
And
company.
that is a good turnabout of
Yeah.
where to go.
I'm
Absolutely.
not.
Let me, I
I agree.
Directing
motion?
staff to make changes kind of crosses.
No, I'm
that
not,
firewall.
I'm not
So
directing staff.
if I could summarize where I think we're at, where it's strategic plan is good. It lacks all the things from a comprehensive plan, strategic plan that we've recommended in the past. So our advice to the board or our reaction to the strategic plan could be summarized as go forth and do work, but this is not the thing that we've asked you for in the past.
And with a few little tweaking, it could be.
And it could serve as the
At least-
foundation, right?
At least it could mention that that's a goal.
Sure.
If
Would
that
somebody
supports-
be interested in taking the first crack at drafting such a
Letter, I guess.
reaction letter to the board on behalf of the commission? Gary?
I'll work with someone on it, but right now my plate is so full, I don't want to.
I'll work with you on it.
Would you do the first draft? If you'll do the first draft, I'll help you.
Sure. Is there a template I can use of an example of the letter that we have sent, or am I just going to sit down at my computer and stare at the blinking cursor?
You can sit down on the computer and stare at your blinking cursor.
Our letters, our past letters are supposed to be on the website somewhere,
Yeah.
but we just are not quite sure.
But I've essentially started them from scratch.
Okay, and I promise you, Norrin and Holly, that I will write with a spirit of cooperation and civility and specificity. It's
agree with
not,
all that.
it is not my intention to troll.
Yeah.
I know.
I
I've
just
got
want to
know
make sure
guys.
you understand that the way we can best help you is, you know, you've given us a list of ingredients and just want to know what the name of the soup is.
Yeah, I think a recommendation too I would have for the board is we have these, the strategic plan, the goals, but like what are the strategic initiatives? Like, yes, you have the tactical initiatives, but if you could boil it up to like the big rocks that are going to be moved and then map those back even to broader KPIs, I think that would be better for the board to at least
Good language.
be aware of.
Good language.
And I guess if we can find one of the letters that we did requesting or advocating for a comprehensive plan, which I think, I don't know.
So many of them.
I know. So if we can provide that, I think that might
What
give.
is my deadline? You want me to have this
if
done
you
by
can have
next time?
If you could have a draft by next meeting
Okay,
for discussion,
okay.
if not,
I knew it should
Then
be
it's-
retired.
you're gonna get fired.
Right.
No. Just,
Yeah, it would be
what
great.
what I'm asking of you on my behalf is analogous to what I'm asking
Yeah. It would be great.
of them.
It would be great if
Which is
it
a
If you
timetable.
could give me something before it's
Of
due,
course I
then
can.
I-
It
then
would
we
be-
can
it
go
would be
back.
We will not
great.
get it the night before.
No, then we can go back.
Yeah,
It
we will.
would be great if a draft for discussion at the next commission meeting could be circulated before the next commission meeting.
Got it. Okay.
And including to Richard so that the draft can be posted with the
Well,
agenda. So I think we have a 2-day notice period.
Right.
okay. But I can go back and
And
forth with Jackie
Right.
and before.
Just the two of you. can go
Just
back
the
and
two
forth.
of us before I bring it to your attention and to Richard's attention
Correct.
Right.
to come.
So the Monday before the commission meeting, it needs to be in Richard's.
The
In-
24th of
Okay.
April. Our next meeting is April 26th, Wednesday, April 26th.
When he walks in.
So you guys we can't look at it on bunk until it's also been posted and goes to Richard.
Any two of us can have a conversation.
Right.
That's what I meant by en banc, that if all of us, if more than two of us were
You
gonna
won't-
look at it, it has to go to Richard and it has to be
So
posted.
if you want to walk it around to individual members for their feedback in advance, that's fine.
I think that would be a good idea.
If you've got the time and can line it up.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know
All right.
that this particular letter requires that level of
Probably not.
coordination.
It's good to know.
Pretty quick,
I did that with the redraft of the charter just because there was so much.
right.
There was a fair bit of back and
Content.
forth. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll reread your draft.
The charter?
Charter.
It's not on the website.
Would you send it to me?
Yeah.
I promise not to share it.
We need a wiki or something.
Yeah, I will send it to you.
Okay.
All right, so at least we have an action plan here, I think. Future guidance. I think that,
Guidance letter, that's
any
nice.
other, I think that's wraps up where we are on this one. That brings us to our next item, which I think will be a little quicker. John and Laura, Tech Commission collaboration with the Arlington Economic Development Commission.
So we've been invited to the May meeting of the Economic Development Commission to come talk to them about who we are, what we do, and what our thoughts and ideas are. So if we wanted to have another round of conversation and chewing about what ideas we might have around an economic innovation event agenda for Arlington, focused on the idea of the nexus between the pilot recommendation and what strategic priorities are and how we might be able to attract non-governmental organizations to come help solve some of our high priority public use cases.
What was the pilot you're mentioning?
Well, so, right, inspired by the pilot in Clarendon,
Yeah.
the idea that there are companies out there who are developing cyber physical systems, Internet of Things, connected devices,
That we could test.
solutions that would be valuable to us that we could get for free because their ability to test in our public space would be valuable to them, right? And how do we potentially attract those? But that was just the one idea.
With protection of data.
Right. How we do
Yes.
all the privacy, the cyber, how we make sure that the business model of the
Consistent with the principles.
consistent with the principles and values of our community, right?
Because
So that-
most of the free stuff out there you pay for by.
Giving away your data, right?
Right.
Yeah, which is not something that I think we want to help. Not that it needs help. But if there were other ideas about the nexus between economic development and technology, we just kind of wanted to refresh that conversation if anyone had any thoughts along the way before we go present to them.
This is a relationship you guys are going to kick off with the Economic Development Commission and
Yeah.
you guys. And in the past, the Economic Development Authority has come in, right, and made a
They've
presentation.
made presentations to
Yeah.
us and.
And some of it was particularly centered around the Amazon whole thing and projections they made and the tax incentives they gave and capacity of, not residential, but commercial occupancy impact and all the beautiful things that was going to happen. And then years have gone by and kind of gone silent. And do we know, would that be helpful to see how prior initiatives like that have?
And I think one of the suggestions, we had talked about getting JBG Smith to come and I think that, but now given their collaboration with, I think, was it?
It's a different focus than what you guys are talking about right now.
Right, but I
Yeah.
think there could be some, synergy or overlap.
That might not be helpful, not lose sight of that. But I'm not discounting what you guys are doing, but
Yeah.
have vision, keep that initiative.
Yeah, I think that's more of kind of a update, go more of a general economic development conversation. We have the fortune of having economic development go immediately after us at the budget work session And Frank and I didn't have anywhere better to be, so we sat and watched the presentation too. We got a pretty big problem in Arlington, and it's not unique to Arlington. It's nationwide about the commercial office vacancies. Because all of a sudden, 30% of the people are working from home, 80% of the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, so just all of a sudden, the footprints that all these places needed are completely shrunk, and it happened to everywhere all at the same time.
Or the alternative, like my office
Yeah, I've
is in
heard that
Roslyn.
phrase before.
My office is in Roslyn overlooking the river, and it's empty. I mean, it's full, they have a whole top floor, but
Right,
there's
right.
no one in there.
But
And they-
Right.
as soon as
People
the
aren't
lease,
showing
yeah,
up.
you
That's
hear
another,
everybody.
I mean, birds sort of collateral.
so they showed a graph of office vacancies, and it was like BRAC and sequestration, and then everything that's
It actually
was like,
made it pretty
whoop.
It's got
Hey,
worse
that's where
than
we
what-
can house the missing middle.
Yeah.
Isn't that a big part of the tax base too, where they?
People have talked about that,
So-
but it doesn't work that well.
Yeah.
Well, there was talk about conversions
So there was talk about conversions, there was talk about a lot of different things, and I think
Windows.
the new head of economic development for Arlington, who I think had been on the job about 4 months, is what he said, made I think the correct observation that everyone's trying to figure this out at the same time, and the people who act early and boldly are the ones who are going to win in the race to refill and make the adjustments, right?
First mover.
And so I think to the extent that we can help economic development put additional tools in their tool bag to kind of act quickly and win, I think the policy window is wide open at the moment, because I think it's going to be an all of the above type approach to solving this challenge, because there's a lot of square footage that is empty or is going to be empty.
Do you remember what the number was?
They had a
Percentage.
percentage basis. They didn't have a.
Yeah, it used to be, I thought it was like creeping up towards 20%.
It's over 20% now.
It's over 20.
It's, I think,
22 or
was gonna say
24.
yeah, I think it was around 22, I think.
22 is like-
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah.
How does that compare with, say, Washington DC?
I think it's pretty comparable, is my understanding, that DC is.
It's not good though.
Yeah.
More than that is its tax base too.
Yeah.
Right, so given that historically, commercial real estate taxes were based roughly about half and residential about half.
I didn't know that.
And I think it's tilting a little bit more towards the residential now.
The other thing they mentioned was they're working on updates to the tax incentives that they have for technology companies. I didn't catch the details on it, but so that might be a thing that we could follow up with them on.
Right. That's,
Because they made the point that that original ordinance was written like 20 years ago.
right.
And so just like the definitions of what should qualify need to be updated, that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
so,
So that might be something we should ask to see if we can get a briefing on from them.
right.
So are you having in mind what sort of technical capabilities commercial real estate should have to be competitive?
No,
IT capabilities and not, no.
no, they're working on all sorts of stuff to fill the vacancies, right? I don't think we're, I mean, if people have ideas for that, I'm all ears, but that's not where I was headed with this. I was headed more of how do we solve our service challenges, our lifestyle challenges here in Arlington without spending our own money in a tight budget environment? And the answer is trade off something that doesn't cost us anything, which is approval to do a thing for a private entity in the public space, right? It doesn't cost us anything to approve it other than the risk we take from that entity doing that thing.
Well, the other thing is, if you're using the pilot as an example, and I think if Holly is still on, she can certainly, as well as others, contribute.
No, Holly had to jump off. She's actually on vacation.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Well, all I was gonna say is, it took a lot of staff time.
Right.
So it wasn't free. The staff time that went into it was substantial.
So there's
So
indirect costs.
yes, if our objective, assuming our objective is to give them value in a test bed, but to make sure that our citizens are our government, our citizens are protected.
Right.
The problem is protecting citizens and government in the test bed is labor intensive.
Well, so those are the kinds of considerations that we need to put into place. And I think our shared concern, if I could speak for both of us at the time, was that the trade-off didn't seem a whole lot worth it to us because the use case seemed like it wasn't ever going to pan out.
Yeah.
So privacy, I thought they did a great job on privacy. I thought they did a great job on cybersecurity. And we sent a set of recommendations around pilots as a result of it. It's like, hey, yeah, pilot's good, do that. But here's some recommendations about how to do pilots more safely. And one of them is make sure the thing that you think you're going to get or you might get is worth the risk.
And
right?
the staff time.
And the time.
Yeah.
Staff time, it's not doing these other strategic things, whatever they are.
Right. So the idea is if we advertise, hey, industry, Silicon Valley, people, innovators coming up with solutions, here are some things that we would like solutions to, and here are the values and principles we have that we'd like your solution to conform to. If you can meet this checklist, submit your pilot application here and we guarantee an expedited approval, right? That timeline is invaluable to the startup company who doesn't have 12 months to wait for board approval of a pilot program to get started doing product development on their thing, right? If we can give them a defined short, certainty that they're either going to know whether they can do the pilot or not in a defined period of time, and they know coming in what the bar is and what the standards are, we're gonna attract those types of people.
So you're talking about fast track permitting.
Something like that, right?
Right.
Something
With a
like that.
template.
Okay, but I guess where I'm all for that,
Right.
but I guess where I'm still fuzzy is what is our angle of entry into that topic as an IT commission?
Because it's about technical solutions and it's about running pilots of Internet of Things devices, like the Internet connected devices. Most of the Economic Development Commission doesn't have the tech savvy to understand that these companies are even out there, that there are people even trying to solve these problems that are bringing these types of solutions and how they think, right?
And that they're not based here. We were competing.
Right.
Both of my sons, that's what they do. And their company they work with is in Denver.
Right.
And it's perfectly compatible with living here.
Yeah.
Can I also suggest that any study that's proposed, accepted, that the rigor of the study is well documented. And maybe the county is doing it. I'm not sure. I know with the CBRS study, we got some high level bullets. Maybe there's a more detailed in-depth thing, but I saw bullets. I saw 5 bullets in the summary of the issue, but to me, that's not really enough information to truly evaluate what's going on.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that.
Yeah. For me, pilot is just a different word for experiment, right? And any good experiment has a hypothesis and it has a report that tells you whether the hypothesis was supported or invalidated, right? And you learn from it. That's the main value of the thing. The secondary value is that we might actually solve some of our problems.
And one of the big landlords, I was going to report on this under the legislative, JBG Smith has selected Fortress Solutions as a partner for end-to-end facilities management services of its fiber optics, edge data center, and 5G infrastructure right across from National Landing. And it's being touted as the U.S.'s first 5G smart city at scale. So it seems, I think we had wanted to try to talk to JBG, and I think they're working with AT&T as well as far as, I think some of the, I believe some of the, both fiber and 5G, I think, on wireless. And I don't know, is that something that you think we might be able to reach out?
I don't know any.
I know, yeah.
Well, we used to have EPAC, not a regular representative from JBG. Matt Smith, who was previously law enforcement here, is their lead security.
Oh.
And So he attended the meetings, very sharp guy and very much into technology solutions.
Because it
I
seems
think
that what JBG, they're in the business of filling space, and if there's, and this, obviously, this whole smart city project that they're doing seems, that's the goal, is to fill space, but if there's things that the county can do to help. I know that there was an NDA with AT&T as far as the edge computing down there.
Your AED contact will likely be closer to people.
Right, that's what I would think, but I was thinking maybe that might be an area where we can do some type of collaborative type thing. I don't know. Anyhow, just throw that out there. Seems like that's a good meeting of our commission and theirs, and
Of course, the meta goal here is to take a tiny little, thin little thing that we can accomplish and demonstrate how that tiny puzzle piece would fit in to a strategic plan for information technology, right? It's like this is a tiny puzzle piece of the economic development portion of your strategic plan for information technology, is your pilot policy. It all looks back.
all right.
Skeptical.
All right, anyway, so.
No, I have a joke, but I'm just going to say
Okay. This is coming attraction here.
I do think we should request Richard, is it possible to get economic development to brief us on the changes to the incentive, the tax incentive around technology companies?
I'm not aware of how much is changing or how quickly, so.
Okay.
Well, I will ask.
I'll put it in an email for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was mentioned at the budget work session.
Yeah, send it along. I'll ask, and they probably won't brief you until it's finalized because there's so many moving parts.
Right.
Sure.
But I can at least ask to get on the agenda or get on the schedule, so to speak.
Yeah. We might have recommendations or an endorsement for whatever it is. Or, because some of the things we were talking about around the tax incentives, I'd be curious to see whether some of the things I've been thinking about have made it into the policies.
Okay. I'll try and make that connection.
All right, good. All right, anything more on the AED, ITAC?
Unless anybody has other ideas.
Come up with something, please shoot them, John and Laura.
Yeah.
I think the Economic Development Commission is much larger than ours. I think it's in like 50 or more members.
They meet in the morning.
Yeah, at their own building or something, right?
I think it's Arlington
in
Economic
Boston.
Development's
Office is in Boston, yeah, or something, yeah.
8 to 9:30.
Ooh, I know.
you serve breakfast.
I don't know.
You should find it.
Good chance. All right, well, luck. That brings us to legislative update, me. All right, the Federal Communications Commission adopted rules last week to close a gap in its caller ID authentication regime to combat illegal spoof robocalls, requiring the intermediate providers that receive unauthenticated IP calls directly from domestic providers to use the STIR shaken framework to authenticate those calls. So basically, it was closing a sort of loophole, and while there are still a lot of robocalls, they, I think, have stopped or slowed down the growth in robocalls. So I think they're at least seem to be getting, and they've handed out a lot of fines. So I think they're doing still very much a focus of that. I know that's
reduce the number spoofing.
the
Caller
yes.
ID.
The STIR shaken is meant to authenticate the callers and is intended to once they've got known generators of this, they're supposed to basically shut them down. And they've handed out a lot of fines too. So they're, so they are going, yeah. So, and also last week, just because the FCC adopted its first rules to require that wireless carriers block scam texts. So this is another front in the battle, basically robo-texts as well. Basically, they're going to require wireless carriers to block scam texts from known illegitimate numbers. The FCC is also seeking public comment on further proposals to apply the do not call registry protections to text messaging. So you'll be able to get yourself taken off that in theory, but that's going to be some time. That's a
I know.
notice of proposed rulemaking.
In that direction.
Yes, so they're moving towards that. The FCC seeks comment on its expanded authority to ensure just and reasonable rates for incarcerated persons at its, as it implements the Martha Wright Reed Just and Reasonable Communications Act. So,
Federal and state.
So now that I believe they've been given the authority, they were precluded before from regulating the state rates. Now this legislation, I believe, they could do federal, and I think international, but now also state. So it gives them that authority.
And that was in the legislature this past session. I don't know if it's been signed.
Oh,
There was something
in Virginia,
In Virginia,
yeah.
there
So
was
this is
something
federal
in there.
level as well. So anyhow, so this is, I know, a topic that we've touched on in the past. So the FCC has been given authority by Congress to basically impose greater regulations. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, they have a ransomware vulnerability warning pilot, which will identify internet accessible vulnerabilities associated with known ransomware actors and pass that information along to network owners such as municipal organizations in critical infrastructure sectors, water utilities, et cetera. So they can mitigate a vulnerability before attacks occur.
What's the agency?
CISA, this is federal agency, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
It's
Separate?
It's a component of DHS.
DHS, but it is,
Okay.
but it's a
But it's
separate,
new, it's relatively new.
yeah, relatively, yeah.
Yeah, Jen Easterly's the director for it.
Jen Easterly is the director,
Oh,
is what Norman said.
Oh, okay, because there used to be an FBI group that did that, so I was just wondering.
There is still an
No, I know a
infrared
few of them.
There's still
that
Infrared?
does both, they're kind of a public-private
Yeah,
partnership
I know
for intel
Infrared.
sharing.
I worked with them
Okay,
a lot.
yep, so we're still connected with them, but CISA is our primary federal relation.
all right.
I like it.
So they're looking through this pilot to help identify and push out known vulnerabilities and try to head off ransomware attacks. Signify, formerly known as Philips Lighting, now is offering street lights that can also support connectivity to wireless networks. The technology is being deployed to support smart city applications, including public Wi-Fi, fixed wireless access, traffic monitoring, parking, and public safety uses. I know that as part of Connect Arlington, the traffic lights, the county had gotten I think, Transportation Department grant to basically connect by fiber the traffic lights on the major arteries, and I know that each of those could serve as a Wi-Fi hotspot. And I don't know if this lighting might, this Philips light or Signify lighting product might, provide an opportunity to provide even greater, enhancements to that.
Sure.
And they want to do a pilot.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
yes,
Right.
it actually is a capability that with the right sensors could do exactly what the pilot in Clarendon did.
Yes. And also tangential to this, when we permitted, or when we built the standard for 5G poles.
Right.
We included a requirement for the ability to pull our own fiber into those poles.
Right.
And that includes streetlights that have 5G
Right.
associated with them.
Yeah.
So there is a lot more opportunity
There
for
needs to be.
fiber.
To expand the capability.
We reserved those rights.
Right, as part of that. Okay,
But
good.
it sounded like am I right that it's sounding like it's kind of like a plug-in for IoT?
It sounds like it certainly could be.
Some sort of mesh network.
Yeah, I think they mentioned actually mesh network.
Hey, can I make a slight suggestion? Instead of using the term pilot, can we go with the term proof of concept? A pilot is really a limited function, so it limits the window opportunity to get customer feedback, whereas a proof of concept can be ongoing, provides evidence to show that it works, and gives lots of opportunity for customer feedback. Just a suggestion.
All right.
Appreciate that, Norm.
Okay. Okay, let's see. The Commonwealth of Virginia has received nearly $220 million from the American Rescue Plan Act's Capital Projects Fund, CPF, to provide broadband access to approximately 77,000 locations, which comprises about 28% of locations the Commonwealth has estimated lack access to high-quality broadband service. Don't know whether, I'm presuming that a lot of that's in rural areas, but I don't know if any of that is being done up with carriers working up here. The FCC announced over $66 million in outreach grants to partner organizations nationwide to serve as trusted community messengers for the Affordable Connectivity Program, ACP, in historically underserved communities. So basically, ideas to help educate the public about this opportunity, this ACP opportunity for discounts on broadband, high quality broadband. So I'm not sure if looked like it was number of partners to get the word out there. The FCC's Spectrum Auction Authority has lapsed. The Senate declined to vote on the House's Spectrum Innovation Act, which would have funneled auction proceeds to numerous initiatives, including $10 billion to upgrade aging 911 systems. So this was going to be a key area for helping to fund next gen 911. Not sure I haven't heard any. Supposedly there was, I think, one senator put a hold on this. I'm assuming this is just a short-term thing, but the auction authority has, I think, raised, well over 100 billion, I know, in funds for the Treasury over the years. So, and it's also helped to deploy spectrum rapidly. Anyway, Verizon finished 2022 with 1.4 million fixed wireless access subscribers and expects to be serving 4 to 5 million FWA subs by the end of 2025. But not to be outdone, T-Mobile ended 2022 with 2.6 million home internet FWA customers and is tracking to reach 7 to 8 million by end of 2025. AT&T says it had about 130,000 subs. They right now seem to be focusing mainly on the fiber optic solutions, but they're planning a refreshed FWA service using 120 megahertz of C-band spectrum, covering 200 million by the 200 million pops by the end of 2023. So let's see. I think that's my report for this month. Norrin, Richard, do you have a DTS update?
I do not.
Sorry, said nothing additional from me. Go ahead, Richard.
Nothing. Okay. All right. I don't think we had anything outstanding to follow up at this point. Brings us to our Rob Billingsley Memorial Good of the Order. Any other items?
Point of order, is Rob?
No, he's still with us. No.
I think we
Memorials
should
in
not call it memorial. We should rename it.
Okay.
Honorary? How about
Honorary, sure, there you go.
Rob
Okay,
Billings
that's
honorary?
better.
All right,
Okay.
good of the order. That's my Rob
Okay.
Billings
Rob-
honorary good of the order.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So be it. We are adjourned. Next meeting, April 26th. Same place.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Same time. All right, thank you, everybody.